Hi everyone, how are you doing?
Good.
Good. Well, glad to see everybody today. Hope y'all's long weekend went well. We're going to go ahead and start the roll call so we can just move through class today. When I call your name, we're talking about favorite spots to study on campus or in Oxford, okay? So I know a lot of people are feeling pretty cooped up these days with just either being in quarantine or just the pandemic in and of itself. So this might help you get some ideas for where you could go when you need to study that just kind of get you outside of the dorm room. So my favorite place to study when I was a student on campus was the mezzanine in the library. There's this weird mezzanine level. The way you can access it is when you're say you come through the front of the library where the Starbucks is, and you go through that long hallway that takes you to the staircase that goes down where you can check out a book. In that long hallway, there are these glass cases. They have just kind of shows that change out there on those cases. On the other side, so like the left side of the building, there's this random gray door, and it just says the mezzanine level. You go up those steps, and there are just these stacks of books up there and lots of different study spaces. It's just really quiet up there. So anyway, I always felt like it was my secret hideout back in the day. So that could be a study space. Miss Black's with us. You want to talk about your favorite spot?
Yeah, so I like the lobby of the Graduate Hotel. It's real colorful if you haven't been in there. I think you can get a coffee in there. And there's also outdoor seating, so you could go now and do it, or you could wait until we're able to go back in public spaces and you can try out the lobby.
Yes, I love the Graduate. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. What about you, Sarah? Are you with us today? Let's see. All right, what about Braden?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Braden. Where you been studying lately?
I've been studying in my room at my desk a lot.
Okay, very good. You haven't really branched out on campus?
No, not really yet.
That's all right. You will. We'll get tired of studying in the dorms. Okay, what about you, Sam?
I've been just studying my room as of now.
Okay, fair, fair. No distractions in your room?
No, I don't have a roommate, so
Oh, nice. Well, yeah, no wonder you've been in your room. Okay, Ethan?
I've been going to the library, like the first level by the Starbucks, because there's a little noise and it's not like completely silent, but
Yeah,
it's still pretty quiet.
yeah, I like that. Sometimes you do have to have some, like just like a buzz of background noise, because if it's too quiet, that's too much. What about you, Esther?
I like to go to the study rooms and study lounges in my dorm. I really like those when there's not anyone in them. But for outside, I like the fountain is really nice.
I know. Oh, I love the fountain. I was going to say too, I love the chapel. So if you're in the quad where the fountain is, you can look up at the chapel, and there's it's just really beautiful up there. Pretty landscaping and the statues, and you can go find a bench and sit and work.
That's where most of my classes are. So
Oh, really? Well, yeah. And
yeah.
even under the bell tower is really cool to just kind of sit under there. It's shaded. So yeah, well, lovely. Okay, what about Hayes?
I really like studying in my dorm, but I've also gone down to the laundry room a couple times and studied while my laundry's going.
I used to do that too. That's actually a perfect study time, is to sit
Yeah.
with your laundry. Then you also don't have to worry about somebody taking your stuff out and leaving it somewhere and all that stuff.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, that's
yeah. It's a great way to kill time for sure.
yeah. All right. What about Reese?
I've been going to the study rooms and Burns a lot.
A lot of my students love the study rooms in Burns. And then I've heard a lot today about RC South having great study rooms too. Griffin? What about Maria?
So I've mostly been staying in my room just because like I like to have noise, so like the TV on.
Yeah.
But I stay in RC South, and we do have like good study rooms, and I've done that. And then we have like the little courtyard because our building is like a square,
Yeah.
and there's this little like stage thing kind of in the middle, and so like you can go out there and sit and study, which is really nice.
Yeah, well, good. Love those outdoor spaces. All right, what about Rosa?
Well, I have my room to myself, so I have a little area in my room that's set aside for studying and like work area. So that's where I go to study.
That's perfect. That's perfect. And what about Maddie? Micaiah?
Hey, I like to study in my room.
Like be in the room. That's good.
Yes, I don't like a lot of people.
I get that. I get it. All right, is Wesley here? And what about Alex?
Yes, ma'am. So I like to study. I like to go to the union and like grab lunch and then just like spend the afternoon like on one of those couches and just study there.
Yes, the union's great. What about Hannah?
Well, I like literally just got back from quarantine yesterday, so I haven't been here for a while. But I really want to like go to the library sometime.
Yes, I'm glad you're back.
Me too.
All right, what about Julia? What about Brooke?
I just study in my room, or I'll go to my townhouse that I have in Oxford.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, good. Glad you have that space too. What about Sarah Tabor?
I usually end up studying in my room, but occasionally I do go to the student union and grab a coffee from Starbucks, and I'll like study up there too.
Yeah, do they have the outdoor seating open?
I think so. I think it's like very limited though. I usually study inside though.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right, very good. And Kevin?
Yeah, I usually I study in my dorm pretty much, and then because of like pledgeship, a little bit in the house, but primarily in my dorm.
Yeah, well, very
Yeah.
good. All right, well, guys, there are other places too. Uptown Coffee on the Square has some really nice outdoor space if you ever want to try that out. Walking over to Roanoke, there's some really beautiful outdoor spaces there for studying. And then one of my favorite places in Oxford, and it's within walking distance, is St. Peter's Cemetery, which I know it sounds like, oh my gosh, why would you go to the cemetery? But it's actually really beautiful out there. It's these rolling hills. William Faulkner's grave is out there, which is a site that everyone should see. It's just, it's really cool. People leave like bourbon bottles and beer for him. He was a big drinker. Anyway, it's just really sweet. But there's some really pretty like benches, and it's so quiet out there and peaceful. So there's a lot of research too that suggests that when we're outside and in nature, it well, if it's a nice day, obviously not if it's storming or something, but it automatically reduces our stress hormones and stressors and helps us to relax a little bit. So now that I know right now it may not be cool, this morning it was actually sort of nice outside. So when you get these little weather breaks as the fall progresses through, get outside as much as you can. It's really good for you. Okay. Let's talk about announcements for this week. So if you want to take a picture of this, you can, or I'm recording this session, so I'll post the link to that recording later today if you want to get back in. You want to go in and change your site identity on your blog to your first and last name. That just helps me when I'm going through and engaging with you on class discussions. I'd rather see your name than just your username because sometimes I can't tell who's who.
How do we do that?
Yeah, to do it, you just need to find customization in Ed Blogs. You can do that a few ways. I'll kind of lead y'all through it if you just want to follow along. We're about to get in the in the blog space to do our daily write anyway. But when you're here, so I'm going to go to the class blog just to model it, but you go to, if you're in your dashboard, you can actually go down here to appearance and then customize from there. And you get the site identity choice. And your site title is, right now, most of you, your site title is your username. So this is what you would then change to your first and last name. And you can even say like Amber Buckley's blog or Amber Buckley's Writing 101 blog or anything like that. Make sure it's your last name too, because a couple of people, like I have a few Maddies and some of the names overlap. So I have to do these extra steps to figure out which Maddie it is if the last name's not present. Okay.
Mine just says H. Sedgwick's. It says you are now customizing H. Sedgwick's blog. Is that?
Yes.
Right?
Do you see site identity?
Yes. Oh.
Can you click it and change it?
Yes, I found it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So there's that. Then some folks have been making up work. And that's fine. A lot of people, they've been sick. I know there's been a lot going on with Rush last week and some social things. So if you are in the boat where you need to make up some old assignments, just make sure you email me, let me know kind of what's going on. And then whenever you make up those assignments, make sure that you email me that you have. The reason for that is, like, if it's the class blog, if it's a discussion on there, I tend to leave that discussion, after a few days. And so I'm not constantly getting back to see, oh, did someone post something from week 1. So you'll need to email me if you want me to go back in and give you credit for those. So just keep that in mind. I've reached out to most of you who have maybe struggled to keep up with assignments, but you're also welcome to come talk with me about things during office hours, or we can set up a separate conference too. Make sure you're watching all of the videos on the class blog space. I'm just noticing I'll get emails sometimes where I've gone over it pretty explicitly in a video, and what I'm assuming is that maybe we're starting the videos and not watching them all the way through. I totally get why. It's hard sometimes to do it. My child right now is doing virtual learning. She's in 4th grade. She's watching videos, and I'm actually having to train her on how to take notes. So it can be difficult, but what I'd like you to do if you're struggling with it is pretend like you're sitting in a lecture hall and listening to a lecture. During that 10 to 20 minute video, what kind of notes, could you take that help you stay a little more active in it? So just make sure that you're watching those to completion, because also toward the end, a lot of times I'll explain, okay, this is what you need to do for homework or whatever. I'll talk about the calendar. So it can be helpful. And then don't forget your RetLab modules. We've done 2 so far. This week we're working on using sources, and it'll be due by the end of the day this Friday. Guys, you can also make up old RetLab modules if you'll just kind of let me know. And of course, email me once you've made them up, because again, I kind of get out of that space and I'm not constantly going back in and checking once the due date's up. Are there any questions about any of this? Okay. All right. So this week we are essentially in our drafting week. Okay, so a lot of times in our units, the first week or 2 is introductory. We're learning about whatever our kind of the source that we're looking at is. We're doing some, like we've been doing some work on rhetorical reading and how do you connect texts and connect sources and evaluate sources. Well, now we are ready to start writing a paper, okay? So at this point in the assignment, you should have completed through, I guess, part 3, and you have notes now. So you have your 2 sources you're working with. You've read them, hopefully. You've taken notes on them. You've worked to try to find their connections. Now we need to write it, okay? So there's some resources I want you to know that are available to you. First of all, me and Miss Black, we're both, you know, some of your best resources in this, right? And you can come see us during office hours where we can talk about everything, anything you're confused about. We can help you kind of map out where you're going with your paper. There are just a lot of things we can do to kind of guide you through the process. Office hours are today from 1 to 3 and then tomorrow from 1 to 3. If you can't meet during one of those times, then just email either one of us and set up a conference, and we'll work with you based on yours and our schedule, okay? There's a link here too to the Writing Center. I'm going to show you the Writing Center. You can just Google it for yourself if you need to. I might have it on the Bitmoji Classroom. But the Writing Center is available for free. There are writing consultations by other undergrad students who are writing tutors. And guys, you can go to the Writing Center at any point in your writing process. So you do not have to go with like a full finished, you know, rough draft. You can go with just the assignment sheet and some notes and say, look, this is where I am. I'm confused about how to move forward. Can you help me through? And they'll try to help you through the process. Okay. By the way, you can use the Writing Center for any kind of assignment, writing assignment, regardless of what class it is. So it doesn't have to be a writing assignment for my class. It could be a history paper you're writing or a speech project you're working on. You can go to the Writing Center for that. So please feel free to visit their page. You can schedule an appointment and do it all online. So it's pretty easy.
So can we not go to like the Fast Track Center in person? Because I talked to, I think his name is Camp, and he said that we can't go like in person yet.
To
inside like the Fast Track Center or whatever.
Oh, they're building at Fast Track. I really don't know. Maybe they are, you know, not allowing for conferences yet. Now, y'all's mentor is Jackie. So I've put this for section 19. Jackie Sershin is the mentor for y'all's class. And I think, is she y'all's EDHE teacher?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so Jackie is amazing and very down to earth. So, you know, you can reach out to her at any point too for extra help. I mean, she may not want to just help you through the writing process, but if you're struggling with like time management, just getting back on track, you know, Hannah, I know you've been gone some. You might want to set up a meeting with her, but you're right, you might have to do it via Zoom. They may not be having in-office conferences yet. Sometimes it depends on the building, you know, and whether or not they can distance well enough, stuff like that. They may not even be having them come to campus, but I talked to Camp yesterday. He was in his office when I talked to him. So anyway, but you're welcome to reach out to them too. All right, any other questions about some resources as we kind of move through this week? I have this over here. I'm going to email y'all about it too. Hannah brought up Camp's name. Camp is one of the academic mentors for Fast Track, and he's just amazing. I love him so much. I wish he were my grandpa. He's just a nice older guy. But anyway, he leads mindfulness sessions. It's just kind of something that he does. So we are all going to work together to do Mindful Mondays on Mondays at 9. You're not required to come to these or anything like that. It's just kind of like a Fast Track community building thing where Fast Track faculty might be there, like Miss Jackie and Suzanne might be there. Camp will lead it, and then the students and staff are welcome to come as well. But I'll email y'all about that later. Okay, we're going to do a quick mindfulness session and some journaling today. This is only a 5-minute session, and it's on our breath and trying to be present. Again, if you just want to kind of look over here as to why we try to do these mindfulness sessions, just to help us to reduce stress and help with our mental focus, especially as we move into this Unit 1 assignment and how to go through it. So guys, get comfy. Feel free to mute your video if you want to. You can turn your lights off in your room if that will help. And we will go through this, and I'll catch you on the other end.
Let's begin this breathing practice. Start by sitting. Coming into a sitting posture that allows us to feel the sensations of sitting. The feet pressed into the floor. The chair supporting the weight of our bodies. And the spine and neck and head in alignment. If you feel comfortable, allowing your eyes to close. If not, perhaps finding a spot 5 feet in front of you and holding that spot with a steady gaze. And then when you're ready, looking into the mind. Perhaps asking yourself, what is my experience right now? What thoughts are present? What feelings are here? What can I feel in my body? And as best you can, allowing all of these elements to be here. Watching and feeling them from one moment to the next, without the need to alter or change them in any way. Now see if you can let go of the contents of your mind and bring your attention to a single point of focus on the breath. On your belly or any point in your body where the breath makes itself known. And feeling the in-breath and the sensations of breathing in, the rising and expansion, and then the out-breath, the sensations of breathing out, the falling back, the contraction. However you find it, just giving your mind one thing to do. Breathing in and breathing out. One moment to the next, as best you can. Now see if you can expand your awareness, moving your attention outward. From the belly or that region in the body where you follow the breath, so you become aware of the body as a whole. Sitting, breathing, one whole breath, one whole body. Feeling your body from the top of your head to the soles of your feet. See if you can expand your attention even further outward, to the skin, to the air. Feel it on your body, into the room, and the space around you. Holding all this as best you can in in a wider and more spacious awareness. And then when you feel ready, allow your eyes to open.
Okay. Hope that was nice for you this morning. Well, I guess not morning now. All right, we're going to go on into our blog space. And today is going to be sort of a holding ourselves accountable kind of day. So you want to think about your goals for the last 2 weeks. You can look at those if you want to before you start writing. And you want to think about how have you been doing. And I want you to think, I don't have it listed here, but kind of think about what have you been doing really well, right? So like, how have you been succeeding when you think about your goals? And then think about too, what you could do to improve the way that things are going right now. And you want to be concrete as you think about some goals kind of moving forward. And also think about it as academic, social, and personal. So we're kind of working in these 3 different ways. I'll show y'all the Maslow's needs, just to kind of think about goals that you may need to set and things that you may still needs that aren't being met. You can think about everything from those basic needs. I think about sleep in particular for a lot of college freshmen struggling with their sleep schedule. Safety needs, that friendship, love, belonging, those self-esteem needs. You can kind of keep those in mind too as you think about this, but I'm going to set my clock at for 4 minutes and give you guys a little time to write, and then we're going to share some of these. Okay, so go ahead and get started on this. All right, guys. You may not quite be finished, but we're going to go ahead and start sharing some of these. We want to use this time to celebrate with you, especially if there are things that have been successful, right? So can we start with that? Anyone want to share like what you feel like you've done really well in the past few weeks?
I mean, I think I've done a good job at like just reaching out if I need help with things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this can be so hard, especially if you are, I'm kind of a perfectionist by nature, and a lot of times I don't reach out for help because I'm scared like what that might suggest or whatever. But that's totally the wrong way to be. You've got to reach out for help, and your professors are all here to help you this semester, guys. We know everybody's struggling. This is a hard time. And so when you need that help, you reach out. So I'm proud of you, Hannah. That's great.
Thank you.
Other folks, what have you been doing well?
I feel like I've been doing a good job of putting myself out there, like socially.
Yeah.
Definitely need to do a better job doing it academically. And, like, just staying on top of my stuff. I've been doing an okay job, but I can always improve.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, the social aspects are part of college life too, but you'll recognize when you need a more balanced approach if it's, if you need to get, kick back into your studies.
True.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Anybody want to talk about what we need to be working on? Some struggles.
I said I've been struggling with getting enough sleep. Starting this week, I only got like 5 to 6 hours of sleep for like 5 or 6 days straight. But I think it was just like nerves. It wasn't like purposely not getting sleep.
Yeah. Well, it's an adjustment too, when you've moved away from home for the first time. It's hard to figure out a good sleep schedule. But guys, sleep is super important. I'm going to give you a little lecture. Okay. You need to be getting your sleep. It actually has a lot to do with your physical health, but also your academic success. One thing that might help is if you're having trouble at night with sleeping, don't do what I did as a college freshman, which was go to class in the morning and then basically conk out all afternoon for like 2 to 3 hours. When you do that much daytime sleeping, you really mess up your night sleep schedule. Instead, actually do nap in the day. They say it helps. They say, especially with studying, if you nap after you study just for 30 minutes, that it helps you to retain that information. The thing is, you don't want your naps to go so long that it actually ends up messing up the rest, your nighttime sleep. Okay, so there's some things. I use the Calm app on my phone, which leads you through some meditations. And one of my favorite thing to do on the Calm app is called an afternoon nap, and they lead you through the nap. So someone actually talks to you about all the benefits of daytime naps, and then it times the nap and it wakes you up at the end so that you don't sleep past that 30-minute window. So there are some all kind of resources out there. You can find a lot of that stuff on YouTube. All right. Anyone else want to share before we move on?
I'll share real quick.
Yeah, Hayes.
Okay, so I was gonna say this for something well I've done because one of my social goals was meeting people, and I have met like a ton of new people. However, I think it doesn't really count because I honestly couldn't, or I don't really remember all the names of the people I've met. So I mean, it kind of goes both ways. I've met a bunch of people, but I mean, if you can really consider it meeting them, because most times the names just go in one ear and out the other.
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah, but hey, it's also, it's not just about them, but it's about you and how you're kind of growing from it. So especially if you were fearful of being shy coming into all this, you know, the fact that you are getting out there and meeting a bunch of people, that's great. You know, you're kind of conquering that part of you that you might have been hesitant about. But one of the hard things about college life is you are going to meet so many people, and they're not all going to end up being these like best friends or anything like that. So trying to figure out sort of who to cling to right now, that's one of the biggest challenges, I think, for a lot of you too. But I'm glad you're putting yourself out there. Some people really struggle with that. Okay, let's move on to the Unit 1 assignment. Thank y'all so much for being so candid, and I've been enjoying just getting into the daily right space and kind of seeing how you are and checking in with you too. And we'll keep this up on Mondays, kind of looking at goals and holding ourselves accountable and celebrating successes. I think that's really important. All right, for this Unit 1 assignment, what you have done for today, you should have finished part 3, which was the dialogue journal, where you took your second source, the one that you've decided on, and you kind of put it in conversation with Hannah Atisha's book, Our Common Read. I know it probably felt weird doing that. A lot of times it's a first for students to try to pretend like these two authors are in the same space having a conversation. But you'd be surprised from those notes how much material you can then pull out as you start to organize, okay, what do I want to say in this essay? Because remember, this essay is about, you know, how we synthesize sources. So here I'm going to go over some things. I'm going to show you a sample introductory paragraph for a paper like I'm expecting you guys to write. So just be prepared to take some notes. It might also help you to pull up the assignment sheet, because we're going to look today at part 4, which is how to write your synthesis claims. Okay, so a claim is essentially a thesis statement. Most of you have probably heard it called a thesis statement before. But what can be frustrating about using thesis statement is sometimes the word thesis statement kind of comes with baggage. A lot of students are intimidated by it. They may feel like it's supposed to look a certain way, kind of based on some training you may have gotten in the past. And so we're going to do away with thesis statement, and we call it the claim. It's the claim of your paper. This is what you are claiming. So it may be an argument paper where you have this certain kind of claim. But in a synthesis paper, when you're putting two sources together, your claim looks a little different because your claim is going to be based on the two sources themselves. So you can look here about what a claim is. But if you'll look here, I've written a sample claim based on two sources that all of us have read for class. The first is Hannah Atisha's What the Eyes Don't See. And the second is the TED Radio Hour piece that we looked at last week on how does trauma affect a child's DNA. So I use these two to model the dialogue journals up here. And if I just kept going with that, this is the kind of claim that I would write for these two sources, okay? Essentially, your claim is asserting the commonality of the sources, right? Whatever the connection is that seems to interest you the most. So here I put both Hannah Atisha and Burke Harris believe that better understanding ACE scores should be considered a public health crisis so that we can combat the ill effects of childhood trauma, not just in a place like Flint, Michigan, but across the nation, okay? So what you'll see here is I'm in the claim, I'm referencing both authors, okay? I am talking about the main commonality. So what I noticed between both, and this kind of comes from my notes here. Remember, over here is the common trait that you're noticing, right? So for me, it was ACEs, and ACEs stand for Adverse Childhood Experiences. Both of them were really interested in that, and both had a lot to say about it. So that's what I'm going to focus on as the main commonality as I work through my synthesis essay, okay? So that's just the claim. That's not the introduction to the paper, but that's basically the heart of what I'm trying to say in this essay. And I'm going to give evidence for it as the essay progresses. But what I want y'all to do and start working on tonight is the introduction to your paper, okay? So this talks about kind of how to build this introduction out, and I'm about to show you a sample one. The first thing you do is provide a hook for your reader. So you have to convince me that what you're writing about matters, you know, and matters now. So how do you engage the reader? And you can do it a number of ways. I've listed some here. Like starting with questions. Anecdotes are little stories that kind of give this emotional appeal and will draw a reader in. Sometimes we start with statistics because sometimes you can kind of shock the reader with a statistic and pull them in, get them interested. And then I use epigraphs a lot, which are quotes that kind of center the reader into the material that's coming. But there are lots of different ways that you can look at hooks, and you guys are welcome to Google on your own, you know, hooks for academic essays and read a little bit more about that. This is really important. So if you're taking notes and you have your assignment sheet out, if you want to bold this or just add a comment to it, in the introduction to this paper, you've got to introduce both authors and the sources themselves, because the only one that I'm going to be guaranteed to be familiar with as the reader is What the Eyes Don't See. But you need to build credibility for the second source that you chose. And it also just builds your own credibility as a writer, that you're saying, look, these sources that I'm going to be exploring are these strong, credible sources. So I'm going to show you an example of this in a minute, but that's going to be really important to this intro. And then the third is to provide the claim. And again, your claim is what asserts the common traits between the sources and makes an argument about their connection. Okay, so let me take you back over here. And here is a sample introduction to this paper. And you guys are welcome to take a picture of this screen. Like I said, I'll put this the slideshow up on Blackboard, and then I'll also have this class recorded if you want to get back into this later as well. But it's an annotated introduction that I wrote as if I were the student doing this paper. And you'll see at first, my hook is in yellow here. I've started with an epigraph, and this epigraph is a quote from Hannah Atisha's book. I think it's from the prologue or the introduction. And it's about toxic stress, right? So it's important that all children, you know, are given a happy, healthy start, and that we can mitigate the effects of toxic stress by building resilience, right? So this just kind of centers readers in what I'm interested in, the commonality that I'm interested in, excuse me, guys, which is toxic stress on children. So that's my hook. Then I continue. Children are often exposed to stress from dysfunction in the family that stems from domestic violence issues, the pressures of poverty, or even the environment in which they live. Okay, so these are some things that might end up coming up in the paper later. Here in green, two pediatricians from two very different parts of the U.S. explore the impact of this kind of stress on child development in their respective works. Dr. Hannah Atisha, in her memoir titled What the Eyes Don't See, A Story of Crisis, Resistance, and Hope in an American City, and Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris in the TED Radio Hour article, How Does Trauma Affect a Child's DNA? All right, guys, y'all talk to me real quick. How have I built the source's credibility here? This is just one sentence, but how have I tried to explain the source credibility? Anyone?
You explained it through talking about the two pediatricians, different parts of the United States, and the both how they deal with DNA and trauma, childhood trauma.
Yes, very good. So I said they're pediatricians. I've talked about that they come from different parts of the U.S., but they're both pediatricians, both interested in this. I also use their titles, right? So we see Dr. Mona Hannah Atisha, Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris. I use their full names. And one thing you guys want to do too, make sure that you do, is correctly identify your source. Do y'all see how I called Hannah Atisha's book a memoir? So I'm being very specific here about the kind of source that it is. And then Burke Harris, her piece was a TED Radio Hour article. So you want to be as specific as you can when you're introducing both of your sources. Okay. Are there any questions about that, like how to attribute those sources? Okay, when in doubt, just be as specific as you can. And I could even expand this out. So I could talk about how both of these women also started these, these clinics that help combat the adverse effects of those ACEs. I could do a number of things here to kind of build that credibility. I had a student earlier say, well, this source that I have, it features this expert, but it's written by this journalist, right? And I said, well, is it NPR? And he said, yes. So I told him most of the time, if you're in NPR, you can actually click on the journalist's name and get a little background info on that journalist. So what their specialty is, that sort of thing. And you can add that material into your essay to kind of build credibility for that source. If you find yourself having trouble building credibility for that second source, that might be a problem, right? So if that second source, it's hard to find where they got their information from, or who really has sponsored this, or who the writer is for this, that might be a warning sign that the source itself isn't as strong as it needs to be. So keep that in mind too. Okay, we're running out of time. Notice down here at the bottom in blue, there is my claim, right? So I've kind of introduced the topic and hooked the audience. I've built credibility and introduced my two sources, and then I've established my claim. So the claim is really looking at the connecting factors between the two sources. Okay. Does it seem like something you guys can do? Any questions about an intro, how to write this intro? All right, well, here is what to expect this week, okay? The very first thing we're gonna do is write the introduction to the paper. You need to have that ready for class on Monday, okay? So your full introduction needs to be ready for Monday. And then we're going to actually workshop on Zoom. So be prepared for that. How you bring it is up to you. You can, but type it up, put it maybe a Word document or Google Drive. You could put it on your blog space if you want to. Okay. Go ahead and start the rough draft as you start to develop that introduction. And we're not going to go over this. I'm going to go over it a little bit in your video for Friday, but there are some notes in the assignment sheet under part 5 that help you with organizing this paper. So I'm not going to require you guys to do an outline, but if you want to do this kind of for your own notes, say you just saw that spiel and you're like, oh, I feel fine about writing introductions, I just don't know where to go from there, then use these notes on organizational structure in part 5 to help you out. Friday's video that you'll see on the class blog is going to be about MLA specifications. So, what the essay needs to look like. I'll go over some of that. And then you guys will be doing the RET Lab module on using sources too. And that should help you just review some rules on how to take quotes from your sources and, integrate them into your paragraphs and that sort of thing. All right. Are there any questions? I know we're at the end. Okay. Well, guys, I've got office hours starting in 10 minutes, so you're welcome to jump in for those. We can set up a conference too if you just want a conference one-on-one at a different time from between 1 and 3. Just email me a time that might work with you either this afternoon or tomorrow. Ms. Black can also meet with you, so you can email her if you need to. And I'll have this video up if you want to look back through that sample introduction stuff a little later. Okay? All right. Well, stick around if you have questions. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Thank you.
Maria, did you have a question? No.
Did you see? I just saw as they were leaving, Sarah Ada was in there. Did you see her come in?
I didn't. I'm glad you said something. I looked when they were journaling, but I didn't see your name.
I just saw her, so I'm not sure when she came, but
Okay. Very good. I think a couple of these I need to go back in and check roles. I think some folks have gone withdrawn. So, all right. Well, I'm gonna get into office hours. I'm gonna go grab something to eat.
all right, I'll be right there.
All right.
Yeah.
See ya.